Thank you for visiting my channel. In this video I want to dream about perfect coloring book. I decided to analyze my collection and to think what criteria is really important for me, what I enjoy, what is nice but not extremely important. And of course, I would love to hear from you, your thoughts, what you appreciate, what is important when you select a new book. Maybe one day even artists or publishers will hear our thoughts and we will have even better books which will be quite close to the perfection. So of course my first question to myself was about size. I looked at all my books and I realized that the most psychologically comfortable size for me it's actually size of the old books by Hanna Karlsson or these Clara Markova books. I tried to put side by side newer books by Hanna Karlsson and her older books. Sorry, I have here Clara Markova, but you know that older books by Hanna, they had the same size. They were a little bit wider comparing to the current editions. And I noticed that I enjoy older books a little bit more. For me, the main reason is that on many pictures which I have here, I feel like they are slightly lacking space for the background around the main image. They have nice balance between amount of details about main image, and the only problem that probably I would love to have a little bit more of the background. It's strange to hear from the person who constantly complain about empty backgrounds, but this book is printed on decent paper and I feel like I'm missing here a chance to do quite interesting background with watercolor. Yes, it's still possible, but in older books I had more space, so that's why I prefer a little bit more this size. On the opposite, there are huge books. Books which I like because they have lovely designs, but their size intimidates me. And quite often I even want to color in them, but because of their size, I can imagine for how long it will take me to finish even one page. It will consume all my available free time during the month, so I immediately start to think that, oh, you will be able to do only one page or two pages in a month. You won't have time for other books to switch between projects. So maybe you will color it later, one day, when you will have more free time. Well, like in fantasies. So many books, they really intimidate me by their size. Surprisingly, the only one big book which doesn't intimidate me, it's actually all books by Kirby. I don't know why, because I have similar size of other from other artists, and yeah, for me they are not very frequently used. But for Kirby, I think that maybe it's balance between image and size. Well, I don't know, maybe that's just magic of Kirby. So he is the only one whose big books, they don't intimidate me. About all other big books, I'm very careful, very hesitant when I select a big book as my next project. What I really appreciate from the artists, if they decide to publish a big size book. For example, this one. It's also big size, but it was a genial idea to include into it also smaller projects. If you follow my channel, you know that I even color more frequently such smaller pictures, which don't require from me a huge amount of time. I can finish them quicker and still have like not to abandon half-colored page because I don't have free time. No, in shorter time I can do a finished picture. It's never boring. I think that the first place holds definitely Kanoka Yeguse, because she included various such projects like this, divided into 3 parts, those 4 parts, then collage pages, like this one, you can select whatever you can. So for me, that's a trick which definitely is a sign of perfect coloring book. Second place holds Jasmine Beckett Griffith. Probably she was one of the first who decided to use the same trick. She included such 4 smaller projects in her older books. In the newer books, she also has pages with 2 pictures on the book, like 2 long designs. Also nice idea. But in my list of perfect signs, I will include this layout created by Kanoka Yagusa in Leon. Well, second, it's about one-sided or double-sided. Here, definitely one-sided books. I can color double-sided books, but here paper really is important. Even if I don't color with markers very frequently, and I am generally a pencil person, I notice that I tend to press quite hard on my pencils, and quite often it can create problem. I constantly struggle with such problem in Symphony. When I color page by page with pencils, I realize that even if I try to protect my books when I color this page, I protect it by putting cardstock. Still, I press hard, and unfortunately I have pressure lines which later will create problem on the back. Maybe they are not noticeable, but when you do another page with pencils, you will feel those pressure lines and it won't be a very happy moment. So definitely for me, one-sided books are better. Even when artists want to create a spread, I think that Klara Markova resolved this problem in perfect way. Actually, another thing, when I have one-sided book, I really love when artists put one regular picture and then not leaving just empty space or putting pattern or black paint. No, I really love those smaller designs. Again, it's something you can color, or it's even better, you can practice some coloring ideas here which later you can use on bigger project. I think that it's perfect. So we will include this trick also into the list for perfect coloring book. So about double-side spread, I love how Klara Markova did them. We have here 2 sides, but on the backs she slightly changed layout. Here we have 2 of such pictures, and she can do a spread. Just great. So of course I'm a huge fan of one-sided books. Well, next one, it's about binding. Of course, I prefer very sturdy binding because all my books, they are in long-term use. If I love the book, I constantly return to it. I close it, I open it, I color it, then I enjoy it by looking for the flips, doing a flip through. And of course, I really need a very nice binding, so it will keep all pictures together. I absolutely hate to when pictures are falling apart. I never cut them myself to frame, to put somewhere. No, that's definitely not for me. And when my book starts to fall apart, I even stop to coloring it. I absolutely dislike perforation, so for me it's almost no. Here I always look with huge care for these mythographics, because I had a bad experience with winter book which started to fall apart. So for me, I prefer books without perforation, with nice binding. But on the other side, if you include in your book pictures which are very close to the binding, the quality of the binding have to be so we can lay it flat and to be able to reach the central part. I have couple I think that older books by Kanoko Yakuza, even if it was perfect Japanese edition, there was a small problem for reaching the central part, and the same in Leila Duli, when we have a big two-sided spread, and because of the part of the picture disappeared into the binding, I had like not connected parts of the flower, not connected parts of the wreath, and it wasn't great. So binding is very important. Of course, it's more for the publisher to select correct way to. This one it's partly glued, partly sewn together, and I think that it actually behaves quite well. In Leon, I never had problems by reaching the central part, by laying it flat. So for me, this partial sewn and glued binding, which allows you to reach the center and lay it flat, it's very important. I have some nice glued books, like huge book by Tolkien. Pictures are glued together nicely, but it's absolutely impossible to lay it flat because of the size and very tight binding. So that's a no. This will go into my list of perfect bindings. Of course, the most important question is about paper for perfect book. It was a difficult choice. I think that for now I have only one book which I can call perfect for 100%, and it's a paper which we can find in Blue Angel Publishing. It's books by Jasmine Beckett Griffiths, and it's books by Christine Karen. I was so extremely happy when I realized that Christine Karen books were published by my favorite publisher, because for me this paper is perfect both for watercolors and for pencils. Prismacolors and other pencils blend on this paper like magic. I love to create different effects by blending pencils. When I had only Jasmine Beckett Griffiths, I mostly colored with pencils, and it was a sensual happiness when you work with pencils on this paper and you enjoy the process of layering and blending. When I started to color in Christine Karen, I started to use also watercolors, and I discovered that paper is also perfect for watercolor. So that's amazing book, amazing paper, and I wish that all our books would be published in the same quality. Of course, I have plenty of other books where I love paper. This Leon Journey was published on much better paper comparing to the Symphony, which was a slight shock for all. I consider, I don't know what about English edition. I have heard not very good reviews, but even Japanese edition has very tricky paper. Leon is much better, but it's better for pencils. Maybe that's my skills, but I can't say that I am 100% happy how watercolor behave here. I did couple of watercolor background. It was okay because it didn't bleed through, it didn't damage paper. It was possible to create some kind of gradients, but still, that's watercolor background. Sorry, I need another picture to show you. That was watercolor background where I actually realized that it's not bad, but not perfect. So this one probably is on the second place. Perfect for pencils, but not so for watercolors. And vice versa, I have books which are absolutely amazing for watercolor. Like this one. It's a Polish book, unfortunately now quite rare because publisher stops to create them and went out of the market. It's very sad because all those books, they were published on the paper perfect for watercolor. Even for people like myself who only start to use interesting paints with granulation, to try to do something interesting with the background. This paper, it holds watercolor in absolutely amazing way. Believe me, it costed me nothing to create this background, just paper surface which holded paper quite nice, and nice paints. Absolutely no efforts. I can imagine how much efforts such a background would cost me on different paper. But it's 100% perfect for pencils, for watercolors. It's helpful, it will do all the tricks instead of you. But for pencils, you maybe need to add additional blender when you want to color on it, or maybe to combine softer and harder pencils to fill in texture, to get more decent paper coverage. So that's opposite side to the lemon. Good for paper, for pencils, perfect for watercolor, perfect for pencils, decent for watercolor. And the only book which combines for me both criteria, it's books by Blue Angel. So for me, into the list of my perfect imaginary coloring book definitely goes paper from Blue Angel Publishing. Now we will go quicker because we discussed the most important criteria. The next question which I asked myself, it's duplicates, yes or no. When I just started to color, my first books with duplicates, that's were books by Selina Fennick. Oh, I found it. And at that moment, I didn't understand this conception at all. I don't know why I would love to have two sets of the same pictures. Instead, I always said that maybe invest the same sum of money, do smaller book, but on more decent paper instead of this very thin Amazon paper. So for a long time, I was absolutely opposed to the duplicates. Only once, when I almost damaged one of the books where duplicates, where pictures were one-sided but had a black back, I tried to iron one of such pictures. Of course, this paint, it stick to one another. I damaged my current page, so it was a good thing to have duplicate, but still, until I received books by Russell Hampson, I was opposed to duplicates, but it actually changed because of the Russell Hampson idea of doing slightly different pictures. And yeah, that's definitely very interesting to check, to compare to duplicates. To select which one is more interesting, to find those different details. It's like a separate pleasure to find what is the difference and what is more interesting. So since that moment I started to enjoy, and I even once colored two similar pictures because differences were considerable. Pictures had totally different background, and for me they looked like two separate projects. It was Mr. Fogarty on a bike. I think that I will put a link in the end of the video, so you will see how different they look, even if there were duplicates. Now for me, I have different problem. It's very difficult to select which one is better. You can see that we have like this one, for example, which I love more because I have here this lovely snake who already made a degustation of the beer, and similar project has more interesting upper part. So now I have a difficult time to make a final decision. Usually I still prefer to select one part of the book. I color either the first set or second set. So still sometimes it's difficult. I would say that now it's just not very important for me to have duplicates, but with duplicates with small differences. Then okay, I enjoy it. To have complete duplicates, I think that it's stupid. It's better to invest in better paper. So for me, it's not very important criteria, but I wanted to mention it. Amount of pages. I realized that for me it's actually not very important, but not because I don't care about amount of pictures, because I realized that never crossed my mind this idea that, oh, I paid for the books and I think that two little pictures were included. No, I think that all pictures, all books on our market, they have very good balance between price and amount of pictures. I never felt like I am lacking and I want more for the price of the book. No, just great. Even here, for one set of pictures, I think that price would be totally reasonable. I started to feel like books where I have slightly smaller amount of pictures, like Matchstick Mouse, books by Russell Hampson, they are even more comfortable to color, at least when I color, when I have a good progress, like Steampunk book by Russell Hampson, I can feel this happy moment that one day I have some chances to finish it. With many other books which are more thick, even if all designs are very lovely, I know that I never will be able to finish them, only if all my collection disappear. Well, let's not think about it. So such smaller books, they give me this comfort of being able to finish them one day. Bigger books, okay, great, I have more pictures to select from, so I realized that amount of pictures included, it's not the criteria which I look often, so that's a secondary element for me. Well, next one. How frequently artist has to publish his books? Well, that's difficult because, of course, there have to be a good balance. I am very happy that so many artists and publishers are still on our market, but sometimes when I look at the list of the books published by Misographic, I feel like, oh my god, I hadn't colored at least one page in all my available book, and they managed to publish like 5 or 6 more. Sometimes it feels a little bit oppressive. I know that it's ridiculous. It's better to publish more, so more people can find books which are more for their taste, and it's much better to publish frequently rather than abandoning the market, because we lost so many nice artists, so many publishers who completely stopped to create books. I think that strategy by Russell Hampson is perfect. He creates books very frequently, so we can maintain good balance between his older books and still being interested in his new projects. So for me, it's perfect. I love the speed of Kerber Azanes. Anna Carlson also. From some of the artists, I definitely would love to have more books. And it could be from Jasmine Beckett Griffiths, from Emily Lindehall Oberg, even from Christine Karen. I think that it's already time for Christine Karen, for Clara Markova to publish more. So there have to be a balance between appearing with a new book every couple of months and between disappearing for 5 or 6 years. We love our favorite artists, and of course we love to have more books from them. So I prefer more frequently published books. Next, I don't know how it's included into perfect coloring book, but I feel that still it's important. It's about communication from the artist and about community. I really love when we have communities on Facebook, for example. dedicated to the art of particular artist, and I think that it's great if artist by himself participate until at least from time to time to make announcement about new books, maybe to publish once in a year kind of freebie to maintain the interest, from time to time to leave a comments. I also want to say that strategy by Russell Hampson, for me, it's perfect marketing strategy. He's very attentive to the posts from other from colorists who colored his works. He very frequently shares their finished works, links to their works. He tried to communicate with the community to do some interesting projects for them. And I also appreciate when artists also publish some examples of his own coloring works. For me, the perfect strategy here is by Kristen Karen. Every time when I look at her short videos where she demonstrates how she colors her books with various art supplies, markers, watercolors, pencils, for me it's a huge inspiration. Much better strategy rather than from artists who never published any of his or her coloring pages in full color, or how he or she colors them by himself. I already mentioned that. I feel like many artists hadn't tried to color their own books, or otherwise they would slightly change their style, their compositions, their amount of details, and so on. So Kristen Karen, Russell Hampson for me are better example how artist has to communicate. I'm also very grateful to Kanoko Yagusa. She always leave very lovely comments under works. There is also other side. I hope that you won't kill me, but I promise to be honest. I follow a coloring book artist who is extremely talented, both in creating line art and in coloring. And very frequently she publishes how she colors her own works. It's absolutely a masterpiece in technique, in color choice. But when I look at it, I realize that even if I purchase her books, I never will be on the same level. I never will be on such level of creativity. And that's what is stopping me from purchasing any of her books. So I appreciate her like blogger as an artist, but that's a downside. She's so talented as a colorist by herself that I can't imagine that coloring in her books myself, each and every of my works would be inferior, and I would be slightly disappointed. So of course that's the reason why I don't purchase her books. So being an active artist and trying to color and to create books in the same time, it has ups and downs. So artist, I think, has to be active to connect with the community, but maybe not to oppress them with the amount of their talent, or they will be totally intimidated. Okay, now after this delicate moment, let's move to the next question. Is it important for you to have a test page or tracker? For me, the test page is extremely important. I have a couple of books where I simply didn't have any area where I can test. For example, this Nelko Neko. It's a book which was printed on the paper which isn't familiar for me. Of course, when I purchase a new book by Russell Hampson or by Kerberazanez, if I am already familiar with the publisher, I know what to expect from the paper. I didn't know anything about this book, and in the first part we have like some ideas from Nelko Neko, how we can color things, but that's a totally different paper from the paper in the book, so they are not suitable for test. And then we have already the first page. The only area where I managed to test at least a little bit, but I still was afraid to use watercolor here for testing, because on this side I already have one of the pictures. So either you sacrifice or you color without testing. So at least some area for testing for me it's very important. I even don't mind to test on title page or an page like this with editorial data, but at least give us some space where I can test my art supplies. All those lovely colorful examples, they are good, but testing page is more important. About trackers, no, for me it's not important. We have this coloring haven idea to include some color combination charts. For me, I don't know how it's possible to use them, because for my color combos to have only 4 spaces, it's not important. And if I imagine some nice color combo, I prefer to put it for longer use somewhere in one of my sketchbooks for ideas, because if I note it here, how the next time I will remember where I actually put some interesting colors. So for me, a tracker isn't important. I think that only once I used it, and it was again in Selena Fennick. When book is small, I don't mind to have in the beginning those miniature pictures, so I can mark for myself which are already completed and which ones I still need to color. But because of such miniatures, it's difficult to do for thicker pictures. I still think that tracker, for me, it's not important. I don't do trackers and I don't count how many pictures I color. I have in my mind which books are closer to the finish, which I still need to color. So testing pages important, trackers absolutely not. Next, it's about picture names and stories. Yes, for me it's important. Starting from the simplest picture names, just to mention the name of the fairy tale, for example, or to mention name of the animal or name of the plant, like we have in Leila Dewley books or Paul Brun, those books which are dedicated to the botanic, to the flowers, plants and animals from various parts of our world. And I love when they indeed have descriptions, when they have names, so I can educate myself. Or when we have fairy tales or book dedicated to the literature, I also probably don't know all the legends, all the deities, so I love when I can read something and to educate myself. Another example, when we have a very creative name from the artist. Again, I think that Russell Hampson descriptions, they are perfect. They are very short, just one name and maybe a couple of words, but still he managed to put a lot of humor into it, and it always gives me some nice ideas. There are names which are slightly puzzling, but still, for me, it's much better when we have such descriptions. I also appreciate such descriptions in fantasy books. That's a book by Airy, and it's about little witch who starts her journey into wizard world. She starts her education and she meets a lot of interesting creatures, a lot of interesting places. It's Japanese book, so designs are lovely, but I would say that without parts of the story which were provided by Airy, it won't be so interesting, because she gave very interesting she gave the story of the main character. She gave main description to the parts of the world. So you dive immediately into this world. You have more connection to the story. And in the end, she also put description of each of the pictures. I started to appreciate it more when I translated it. So far, I did here only one page. And it was about magical art supplies. It was interesting by themselves, but when I read the description, she specifically noted that there were those magical paints created from unicorns, but only with their they consented to donate some of their hairs from their mane, and mermaids. This magical paint was created from their scales, but only from the scales which they change every year. So no unicorn or no mermaid were damaged. So I think that it was very sweet, very nice detail. It immediately made very sweet connections that she thought about this slightly triggering moment. And such sweet things, very nice, humorous, very interesting details she managed to put into all of these descriptions. That's I really appreciate. So for me, names of the pictures, some artist thoughts, description of this fantasy world, I think that it's a part of the charm of the book. For me, it's very important. So this idea I definitely put into my list for perfect coloring book. Next question. One narrow theme for coloring book or various miscellaneous pictures? I think that for me more attractive is a narrow theme. I already have plenty of books, and I think that I am attracted more to the books where I can follow one story or one theme which is interesting for me. I love books which have like general theme, fantasy, dream worlds, illusion, but still I think that books which have more narrow theme, they have bigger chances to find their own community, to find its own place on the market, to be selected among a huge amount of coloring books. The good example is mythographic, for example. I have this illusion. For me, much more interesting books from the same series, but which have slightly better defined theme, like aviary or wild winter or deep blue, rather than just some various lovely pictures. And they even also have animals and birds, but still, if I need to select between two, I would prefer a book which have better defined narrow theme. Another example, Airy. I have several of her books, and I would say that in romantic country, yes, we have like general theme. Again, girl and duck or geese, they are traveling, but her later books, for example, this one, which is dedicated to the travel around the world about famous places, the World Heritage Sites, or this one where we have story about this witch, which I already mentioned. They are more interesting, more inspiring. So when I need to select between those two, I will select book with more defined, better worked the world where artists put more efforts to create his own story, his own world, or made selection of the pictures which are connected by one theme. And now I want to do a quick blitz. Like, if I want to create my perfect book, which artist I would call to create faces? For faces, I definitely would invite Christian Karen. For me, she is the best, no discussion, and for me, no one can compare, because she has very big diversity, and on her portraits we have women, we have men, we have fantasy characters, we have more children portraits, we have fantasy creatures. All of them have different facial expressions, different facial characters. Because, well, honestly, I saw lovely portraits, but almost all girls, they have like basic face and only style of hair or dress was changed. They all have the same pose. Well, that's definitely not about Christine Karen. And I can't stop to praise her shading, extremely helpful for beginners. Delicate, helpful, perfect. So, for my imaginary perfect coloring book, I would invite Christine Karen for creating faces. About dresses and costumes. Since I was a small child, I always loved to draw dresses. When I read fairy tales or novels, especially like historical novels, Alexander Dumas novels, Walter Scott novels, I always paid attention to the description of the beautiful historical dresses and I tried to draw them myself. I created paper dolls and I draw dresses for them. It was a huge hobby when I was a child. So I still have a very soft spot to the pictures with beautiful dresses. For me, the champion here is Chris Ortega. I absolutely love all her costumes. She has a variety of them. Some of them look like medieval or Renaissance style dresses. We have costumes from various epochs, various countries. So for me, she is the best. Look at this one. Perfect in each and every detail, starting from the hairstyle, jewelry, dresses. Definitely, when I create my perfect coloring book, I would invite Chris Ortega for fashionable and for beautiful outfits. For animals in my perfect coloring books, of course, I would invite Kanoka Yagusa. No doubt, because I think that in this last book, where she added also quite exotic animals, like this one, she once again demonstrated how talented she is, and not only because she depicts animals which are quite perfect. I try not to think about cats by Maria Trolle. So they have perfect proportions. They are easy to color because they have a very nice balance between empty areas which I can fill in with my own fur texture and her helpful hints how actually I need to do this fur. So, and the final nice thing is that her animals, they have like facial expressions, they have emotions, they are not like cartoon style, they still look realistic, but in the same time we can perfectly read the story. This one is boring, those they are curious, so that's why I think that she is a champion if I need to color to create book with animals. Composition. Well, here there are many artists. I think that all those artists, they are good for compositions. Also Russell Hampson. For me, I think that it's really important to have good compositions. That's probably the first thing which I pay attention to. I love well-balanced pictures where we have nice balance between details and background. I also love things like which look like round composition of races. So for me it's important when I have such pictures in the book. And I also like this one. And I also love pictures with frames. So for composition, I think that there are several artists, all of the already mentioned, plus Kerber Razanes, plus Russell Hampson. About botanical elements. Of course, if I would create my perfect coloring book for botanical elements, I would invite Leila Dewley. I love Paul Brun. She's also very talented, but I still think that style of Leila Dewley, it's more for my taste, a little bit more exquisite. And I also love that she uses variety in styles, so we can have races, we can have landscapes, we can have mix of plants, leaves, and even smaller animals. I think that her last books, especially this one, definitely once again confirms that she is a champion of botanical illustrations. Yes, there are other very lovely books, but for me she is the best. And the most complicated question is about architecture. Honestly, I feel a lack of very interesting, inspiring architectural books. You know that I love to travel and I love books inspired by famous places, by architecture. So that's why I love that book by Eri, where a girl is traveling through famous places. And that's why I so much love books by Urban Anna. Because of the lack of other decent books, I would say that for now Urban Anna is my champion, but I just would love to have a little bit bigger variety in the market. I would love to color famous palaces, famous castles. I know that such books exist, but what I dislike is that they are mostly photographs which were digitally stylized into line art, and those examples which I saw, I don't like the style, how they transformed, how they depicted. It's not like person created sketch by herself. What we have here, why they are so lovely, because they were depicted, not of course Urban Anna also were able to take picture by those real places and to make a line art using digital projects, but that would be pictures without soul. Why her art is so beautiful? Because that's her personal sketches. She transformed what she saw by her eyes into her sketches, and that's why I love to color it. So I would love to color palaces, castles, other famous places which I also would love to visit. It would be for me a huge inspiration to color them and to dream how I can visit them in the future, or maybe to remember my own trips to those places which I already managed to visit. And that's, I think, that a niche which I definitely feel a lack of very decent books on our markets. I hope that one day we will find more of such books. I can imagine books with beautiful German villages and their castles and palaces, all French famous palaces in the Loire Valley and many other beautiful regions. So plenty of ideas. So I hope that architectural theme on the market will be more widely used in the future. So that's my ideas about perfect theme, perfect artist for coloring books, about criteria which is important for me, things which I pay attention to, and imagine that one day we will have such lovely perfect coloring book. Well, I hope to hear your thoughts about what you consider as the best on the market for portraits, for compositions, for flowers, for paper, for other things which is important for you. So let's meet in the comments, and very soon I promise to color something from this pile, because those beautiful books which I consider as the best, they definitely deserve to be colored.